All right, so, Kareem, one of the things that struck me about your book as I started reading it is you mentioned you were this cocky kid from Harlem. Here you meet Coach Wooden. He's this Midwesterner. What did you think of Coach Wooden when you first met him?
I thought he was from another era. He reminded me of some of the films I'd seen about the 1920s and 30s. He seemed to be stuck in that era.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And what compelled you to write this book about him?
I wanted people to understand, who Coach Wooden was in reality. Everybody sees him as this very successful coach, and it's all about hoops. But he was about a lot more than that, and I wanted to share that with people who didn't understand that.
Yeah, and there's a lot to share. I want to talk about that. And Poppy, when you wrote your book, I mean, you've already written a book on your story, but you included a lot more in this book. What compelled you to write it?
Well, I always have people asking me questions about my career, my life, how it has been. I always like to encourage people to work hard because it's a lot of determination that comes with what we do. And people are always asking me questions about it.
Now, I have to ask you something because when I was reading your books, I noticed a connection that you two had. Now, Kareem, let me ask you first. What was the first sport that you wanted to be great at, that you wanted to play?
Baseball.
Oh! You were a pitcher.
I pitched first base and the outfield.
Really?
Yeah, I was Mr. Little League.
How fast could you throw?
When I was in the 8th grade, they put the gun on me. I was throwing it over 90 miles an hour, but I didn't know where it would go. We played a very important game, in the Little League, the final game, and they brought me in to relief pitch. Mm-hmm. We were losing by about 8 runs. I was angry, upset. Tried to wind up and throw my hardest fastball, and it went into the stands. It nearly killed somebody in the stands. So it's good that I didn't play baseball.
Really? Is it? Could you hit that?
Man, I'm telling you.
90 miles an hour going all over the place?
Hey.
He hit several of them.
Yeah.
No problem. Plus, I'm right-handed. He would have had a field day on it.
The good angle, huh?
Yeah.
Now, what did you want to play growing up?
Basketball. All the way.
Look at this. I'm glad I brought the two of you together.
Yeah.
Where were you in each other's lives 40 years ago? So why did you want to play basketball?
That was my everything.
Yeah.
Watching my man, watching NJ, I mean, that was what we all love over there. Dominican. The baseball always has been big in Dominican, but basketball in the 80s has that major impact down there that's what every young man want to do.
Did you know you were having that kind of impact around the world?
No. When you're involved in it, you only think about getting to the next day. Mm-hmm. I made the team this year. I hope I make it next year. I hope they give me the next contract.
You felt that way even as a huge star? I hope I make it next year?
Well, no. At that point, no, because everybody wanted to sign me for a long term. But I'm talking about as you come up in the sport. That's all it is. You love the sport and you hope that you get an opportunity. I wanted to go to college. That's what it was all about for me initially.
Speaking of college, we just finished up the draft lottery, Celtics picking first, Lakers getting second, your Lakers getting second, and you've spoken out a lot about the one and done rule. You've called it a travesty. Let me ask you, what do you think Coach Wooden would have thought of the one and done rule, and how would he have been able to coach in this era?
I don't think Coach Wooden would have been able to do well in this era. I don't think he would have coached because he wanted kids to graduate. Mm-hmm. And now kids go to college, they either want to get the attention that they can get to make it to the NBA, or they want an education, but they don't want both. And Coach Wooden felt that we could get both. And I did, other players did. That's what he was all about.
And your story was very different. I mean, you signed a contract shortly after you turned 17. You go from Dominican Republic to the desert of Arizona. What was that like for you?
It was a life changer, I mean, I had never been out of my country ever, and I didn't speak English at all. And being away from your family and walking into a new culture, it was something that it was tough. It was tough.
My family's from the West Indies, and when my grandmother came, they came into America through Mobile, and they took the train to New York. And my grandmother kept thinking that the train was going to go off the land and into the water because she'd never left Trinidad. She'd lived on an island her whole life.
Yeah.
Oh my!
And you have thoughts like that, right?
Definitely, 100%.
You had thoughts like that?
100%. You don't.
What was the most challenging thing for you?
The food.
Really?
Yeah. It was crazy.
Really?
You know, because we put flavor on everything. You know, yeah, you got it. Rice, bean, you know, we cook it differently. We put a lot of vegetable and flavor in it. You know, at the beginning it was hard for me, but like I say, man, you know, like my man say, when you are coming up, all you want to do is just try to make it the next day, be part of it the next day, until you establish yourself, and then you start looking at things differently. But that's how it is at the beginning.
Both of you were powerfully impacted by your parents. They meant so much to what you were able to achieve in sport. You know, now, today in the news, there's one parent who is in the news more than anybody else, and that's LaVar Ball, his son Lonzo, top pick. Kareem, I got to ask you, what do you think of LaVar Ball?
I don't think he's doing his kids any good. You know, by creating all that controversy and all this attention, $500, you know, basketball shoes. Come on.
Yeah.
Give the kid a chance to be himself, and don't put yourself out there like that. I don't think that's good for.
I totally agree. I absolutely agree with it. You know, the sport is a challenge already. Now you're creating a different challenge for your kids. You want everybody to try to beat them badly when it comes down to competition or whatever had to do with the sport, because of there's not humbleness involved in it. That's how people see it. Like when I see it, that's how I feel like about it. You know what I'm saying? So being humble, you know, just let things, you know, move on by nature, I think is the best way to describe how to be good in sport.